We have a number of questions coming in, and thank you to everyone for using the Q&A function. I'm going to go to one question that was actually answered, but I just want to go through all the questions to make sure that everyone hears the answers. Adrian Guzman, and this is also a reminder to people, Adrian, I recognize your name from CEOS if you're the same Adrian, but if people don't put their organizations, we can't attribute and we can't say who you are. So Adrian Guzman has asked, is it a national initiative or similar to the Open Science Framework? And Doug, you answered, so did you, Gilberto, but maybe I'll hand to you, Doug, if you want to just expand on what you said, please.
Yes, so thanks for the question. If I understand correctly, we're looking for research that subscribes to the general framework of open science, and not necessarily something at the national or local level, but something that you know, if we make reference to I believe it's called the San Francisco Declaration, something that's kind of recognized internationally as defining what open science is. GEO is working on an open science statement, which will probably be coming forth to plenary for a look in a few months. So that would set the framework, at least within GEO, for what we mean by open science. But we're just following kind of the generally accepted framework that's out there now for open science research.
Thank you, Doug. The next question is from Thierry Ranchin, who's from Mines Paris Tech, and is also part of the GEO program board. He asks, are there any recommendations in terms of license for reuse of software from this work? I'll pass this one to Gilberto Camara, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Thierry, obviously, we would like the licenses to be available for reuse and generalization. If I understand your question right, we would prefer that the licenses abide by one, not necessarily a open source license. There are a number of open source licenses available. I think they are listed in opensource.org. And there is a list that ranges from the very permissive MIT license to the more restricted GPL license. With everything in between, there's the Apache license. So my recommendation, of course, the Secretariat is willing to help whoever wants to share. We can explain, depending on what your interests are in terms of software, whether you want to use a more restrictive or more binding license. So essentially what we want is to make sure that those who want to reproduce and generalize can do so. And that is achieved by adhering to one of the known open source license. So it's opensource.org. I'll check. If it's not that, I'll put a link on the chat. Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much, Gilberto. The next question I see is from Jose Romero, who's from FOEN, the Federal Office for the Environment, and also extensively involved in GEO. Jose has asked about the issue of reproducibility and EO in the context of activities that GEO is interested in. So can I give that one to you, Paula, please? Paula De Salvo from the GEO Secretariat.
Thank you, Stephen. Yes, so if I understand correctly, the question from Jose Romero, we will work with the various entities of the GEO Work Program activities and in the first phase. So to make sure that all the GEO Work Program activities will be included, the knowledge produced by the GEO Work Program activities will be included in the GEO Knowledge Hub. And as we go along, we'll include additional partners. And so for what concern data, this is something that we will look at it in close collaboration with the GEOS platform too. Hope to answer your question.
Thank you, Paula. The next one is from Joan Masso from CREAF. And he says, is this page already open and accessible? Unless someone corrects me, I will say not at the moment. Paula, you're nodding your head. Do you want to answer?
The URL of the GEO Knowledge Hub is a sandbox. It's existing for us internally at the moment. We are working on it and refining a number of functionalities, and it will be made available to the community later this year.
Thank you. Perfect. The next question is from Laurent Durieux from IRD or ERD in France. And he's talking about different processing approaches such as ML, machine learning, and about training sampling data sets being mandatory to tune part of the approach. He's saying that the issue is linked to the sampling approach and also the capacity to get the samples. How is this in situ data issue addressed by the Knowledge Hub? And maybe if Florian, if you're online, Florian, yeah, could you answer that, please?
Yeah, thanks. So there are a few answers to this question. The first one is to clearly state that yes, the Knowledge Hub will be able to store data sets. If they're part of an application, for instance, we saw the Send2Agree example, then we'll be able to store the training data set used in South Africa to demonstrate the solution. Then if we want to move to replicability, then a key issue is not only the data, but also related metadata to allow others to collect their own samples to reproduce in the setting that they are in the local environment that they want. And finally, we also would like to really work on cloud environments and ready-to-run environment, not necessarily only on cloud, to include in this ready-to-run environment the training samples. I follow quick review and reproducibility.
Thank you very much. So we next have Xiao Yu Feng. How is the Knowledge Hub linked to the existing Geocatalogue? If I understand the question, I think Jean Desart has already addressed that by saying that it's a new module of the GEOS infrastructure and it's linked to the GEOS platform. If that's not your question, please expand your question or provide a more detailed question. The next question again is Adrian Guzman. Are we connecting this to an archival repository? And he's provided an example in GitHub. Can I give this one to Gilberto Queiroz?
So thanks for the question. We haven't discussed about this yet, about this archiving, but behind the GEO Knowledge Hub, what we have right now is really a digital library. So we have already a place to keep all the records and the digital objects there.
Okay. Thank you, Gilberto. The next one is from Lyubka Pashova. What are the differences and similarities between the GEO Knowledge Hub and other global or regional EO science and knowledge hubs? What are the advantages of the GEO Knowledge Hub? Could I give this one to Rick? Rick, are you there? Rick Byans?
Yes, I'm here. I will try to address this question as good as possible. It's one that we get quite a bit. The way I see it, the way I believe the Knowledge Hub has advantages over other digital libraries is the fact that with the Knowledge Hub, we work closely together with the knowledge provider and the GEO community to go this extra step further from having an EO application to sharing that EO application and making sure that the friction of a new user to use that application becomes as low as possible, as small as possible. And so we will be working very closely with the knowledge providers, initially related to the GEO work program, to make sure that documentation, is part of the knowledge package. So we're building the knowledge package basically together with the knowledge provider. So, and the big difference is that we're going all the way to the fact that we're providing a working environment. So what we call in software terms a sandbox, where the user will be able to reproduce the EO application, not replicate, but reproduce. So when it comes to replication, then of course the user needs to enter his own data or to connect to his own data. So I see this extra step that where you have only maybe a list that comes out of a digital library. In the Knowledge Hub, we will take the user by the hand to say, hey, here is an environment where you can actually play around with this application.
Thank you, Rick. So I'm going to do a few more questions, and then I'll keep some of the other ones till the end. If we can do, I'll take these two from Joanne Massel. The Knowledge Hub is connected to data, but can the data in the GEO portal, the GEOS portal or the GEOS platform, be connected to the knowledge derived from it? And the second one is, if the package has a permanent ID, I'm assuming it should be frozen. How can a package be updated as new knowledge emerges? So the ID issue and the GEOS platform issue, Paula, could you take those, please?
Yes, thank you, Stephen, and thank you, Joan, for these very interesting questions. So to answer the first, let me tell you that we are working in close collaboration. We started working in close collaboration with the GEOS platform team to exactly address your question. Let's take a given user who goes to the GEOS platform and who's looking for data. The direction in which we're working is that the user in the GEOS platform might be prompted with knowledge related to that given data set. And vice versa, if a given user enters into the GEO Knowledge Hub looking for knowledge, it might be prompted with data that are related to the knowledge he's looking for that are residing in the GEOS platform. And as Jean Dussart mentioned this at the very beginning, the GEO Knowledge Hub and the GEOS platform are two essential and complementary components of the bigger GEOS infrastructure. So we're working closely with the GEOS platform team to establish close interoperability at the benefit of the end user, to let the end user benefit at the best from the components, from these two components. And then to answer the second question, yes, a given knowledge package will comprise publication data, a number of knowledge resources as described by Doug Kripe. If any of those components will be updated during the time, the knowledge package will portray a different version, making sure that the previous versions are not lost as well, because we know that historical progress of research is as an important element. And so we will tend to keep the newer version, we will tend to update together with the knowledge provider, because it is important to say that the GEO Knowledge Hub will be successful thanks to the close collaboration of the GEO Knowledge Hub team and the knowledge providers. And so in the case of new versions of knowledge resources, this will be captured in the GEO Knowledge Hub.
Thank you, Paula. Now, for Ian, Daniele, and Gilberto, I'd like you all to answer this two-part question, and we'll start with you, Ian, since you were the first presenter. Could you just explain your experience, working with the GEO Knowledge Hub, excuse me, and the advantages that you see that the GEO Knowledge Hub brings to your work? So if you could go first on that, Ian, and just let me know if the question's not clear.
Sure, that's great. So there's different aspects to this, but GeoGlam is really a coordination activity. We have well over 100 institutions contributing, many projects, and really that's the fuel that runs GeoGlam, in-kind funding of projects. These projects usually have defined timelines and defined deliverables. These deliverables are generally knowledge resources. But often when projects end and funding ends, the risk is that we lose the management of that knowledge, and over time it just dwindles away. So the Knowledge Hub allows us to better manage that and maintain it and perpetuate it through time. Second, it allows us to better organize our knowledge resources into packages so we can take from different places, creating packages that meet specific defined needs. And third, GEO is maintaining the infrastructure. We're responsible for the custodianship, so we focus on managing and taking care of our knowledge. We don't need to worry about the infrastructure. That burden is taken away from us. And for one community with not a whole lot of funding, this is very important. And then finally, I would say it's the, and this is yet to be explored, but as we approach things like sustainable development goals and the climate challenges that require integrated analysis across many communities, I think we're going to be able to see the Knowledge Hub as a resource because we're all populating our knowledge packages. Hopefully that will allow us to reach across communities, integrate more of those knowledge pieces into coherent answers to things like specific sustainable development goals and so on. So it really help us build our community over time, I hope.
Thank you. I just want to pick up on your last point there about what we call the GEO engagement priorities around the SDGs and climate action and disaster risk reduction. During your talk, you talked about the knowledge package for the NAPS, the National Adaptation Planning. In the context of GEO and GEO members and the UNFCCC, how does that help your work? Like what's the impact there? Are you working with the members to do this? Are you working with UNFCCC?
We're just starting to get off the ground on this. We're developing a guidance document that will go into the national adaptation planning processes. But what this will be is essentially a cookbook, if you like. So we're going to use examples from the several countries we already worked with to co-develop their own systems, take from those and take from the various tools like Send2Agri and others, and put these knowledge packages together that will make it much easier for other less developed nations to come into the NAP process and access the knowledge and do agricultural monitoring, provide real-time assessments for responding to climate disasters and so on.
Thank you. Thank you. So Daniele, the same two-part question to you. What's your experience of the GEO Knowledge Hub, and what are the advantages with respect to your work, please?
Yes, thank you, Stephen. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just to want to make sure that I say that I represent the entire Human Planet Initiative. So I have not thanked everybody, but of course also Susan and all the colleagues from all the institutions have contributed to this. So to answer your questions, I would say that I agree with Jan that having our material organized by an outside source with a detached look, I think provides maybe a better opportunity to organize all the material of the knowledge package in a better way. That is certainly one big advantage of the Knowledge Hub. So this independent view of our work. Second is that I agree, we are kind of working on very time constraints, and maybe we are not always keen in maintaining maybe data sets that are maybe old, a little bit old, but that may equally be important in the future. And third one is that having all in the GEO Knowledge Hub, I think it will be easier to engage with the other GEO activities, the initiatives or community practices and so on and so on. Because our work is on societal essential variables, so those that are used to address this engagement priority of GEO. So we anticipate that through the Knowledge Hub, it will be easier for us to reach all other GEO activities. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful, and it's very clear as well. So you talk about other GEO activities. In your talk, you talked about the New Urban Agenda, and you talked about SDG 11 for sustainable cities, communities, and settlements. How about not just talking to other GEO activities, but what about that crossing between national government agencies and GEO and the cities who are working more in SDG 11 and the New Urban Agenda? How can the Knowledge Hub help there?
Well, let me say that our data sets are global data sets, and our strength is to be able to provide data that are comparable across the globe. Typically, when we work with governments, we say that you should use the set of data for your country and see how it is useful to you, and let us know if we are be able to help. Occasionally, we do extra processing for some countries. Maybe we do the same processing but using final resolution data, and that happens, and we can provide examples on that.
Great, thank you, Daniele.
You're welcome.
So, Gilberto, you know the questions that are coming, but before you speak, I just want to highlight a comment in the chat from Lubia and congratulate INPE because they're going to have their 60th anniversary this year. And just say thank you to Lubia for that input there in terms of how she thinks the Knowledge Hub is going to help INPE with the dissemination of knowledge and prospects. Lubia, I'll maybe come back to you at the end if we have time, and maybe you can say some more on that intervention. But Gilberto, to you now. So the same two-part question. I presume I don't need to repeat it.
Yes, I have the same opinion as Danielle and Ian. I'm pretty sure that the Knowledge Hub initiative will bring many benefits for the GEO community. This road towards open science, it is very exciting, and it will bring collaborations that we never thought first. So for us, for example, in the case of the Brazil Data Cube, it was very nice to organize the resources in a structured way. And as we developed the resources, we had new ideas, new perspectives on how to prepare something that is really reusable and that we could share with others. So I think that the potential here is infinite here. And please, I would like to ask Lubia also to share his ideas, because I love the way she put the things.
Please, Lubia.
Oh no, I think that Gilberto is the main person behind this project. What I want to say is that as we do provide data and programs that generate data and in official data mainly about the land cover of Brazil, I think that if we have more transparency and we show the role that we are in, working with innovation and how we do that, the better our data will be understood and appreciated. And we also can benefit from seeing what other institutions are doing and how they are presenting the work. And so I'm very fond of this project, this initiative. And I think that the idea that the initiative of Gilberto that presenting the results of the Brazil Data Cube is also was a very good decision and an important decision, because in this project is where INPE is depositing a lot of its efforts and innovation, thinking about machine learning and artificial intelligence and big data on Earth observation. So I'm very happy to see Gilberto's and Karini's presentation today.
Obrigado. So
Nada.
I think it's interesting because there's obviously a lot of accomplishment around the science and the technology. And Gilberto Queiroz, you said in your talk, one of the things you wanted to do was increase research and collaboration, the network. How are you going to do this in the context of the Knowledge Hub? Do you have an idea?
I think that the way that we are, now I'm talking about with the head of the Knowledge Hub team. So I think that we have a very good plan in the design of the Knowledge Hub around the communities, the organization of the thematic areas. So the way we want the people to share and to participate and engage in the use of the knowledge packages. So I think that when this is finished, this part of the work in the digital library, I think that it will be more easier for everyone to be connected to the specialists, to the experts, to the initiatives.
Great. I think you're correct. I hope you're correct. Thank you. That's really helpful. So I'm going to move back to the general Q&A now and go through some of those questions. There was one from ZXY. I don't know if this is Mr. Heightlat Long or how they're doing it. But the question is there a clear division of labor among the tasks of GEO? Is the whole task theoretical or applied? I think hopefully it's very obvious that it's not theoretical. We've just shown you use cases. Paula talked about the sandbox. We have a lot of work going on, and the knowledge providers are working very closely with the GEO Knowledge Hub team and also then others within the community. So hopefully that has answered that. The next one is from Marcus Conco, who I believe is ITC. Does the Knowledge Hub team provide technical support to create an executable package? Are they also checking whether the code is executable? So my two code friends are Mr. Queiroz and Mr. Bayans. So I think I'll go to Rick, if you wanted to take that.
Yeah, sure. I think in this question, there's a lot of aspects of the co-development of the GEO Knowledge Hub. It's a really important question. And I'm gonna touch on the higher level ones. First of all, the sustainability issue of the GEO Knowledge Hub. Many people have said, well, is the GEO Secretariat gonna do all that work, right? Support all the activities, explain all the technologies, and you have to look upon the GEO Knowledge Hub as a big snowball, and we're trying to push it off a tiny slope. Now, but in the beginning, we will need a lot of push from our side. But once that ball starts rolling, and when it's rolling, that means that when the GEO community picks up on the idea and has that mind shift of putting that extra effort that Lubia and Gilberto Queiroz just explained in their organization, INPE, they just did that extra step. And it brings out such a lot of possibilities. Once we get there, then the technical support will no longer come from us. The technical support will come from the communities. The technical support will come from the capacity development part that we're developing still of that Knowledge Hub. So it's something that if picked up, and it is obviously picked up by the GEO community, these checkings, the executable package and everything will be the provider's responsibility. So that means that on the end of the knowledge provider, there will be some more effort in learning new stuff and doing new stuff. But in the end, the application, whatever the organization is producing, will be so much more powerful and reproducible and replicable. I think that's what I wanted to say on the higher level. I don't know, Gilberto, if you want to comment.
No, I just would like to add that we are aware that there are many technologies that are designed for reproducibility. For example, the initiative from the IFG with the O2R, the CERN initiative with Rihanna, and the Johns Hopkins University with Gigantum. So there are many tools that we can bring and connect in the Knowledge Hub in the future that could also support the providers in this to assure the reproducibility, or at least the executable, the execution of the packages. So thanks.
Thank you, Rick and Gilberto. The next one is from Jiacheng Zhu. How do you organize these data layers and the knowledge? What kind of database is used for storage? Can I give that one to Florian, please?
Yes, sure, thanks. So the Knowledge Hub is built on open source and free technologies. So the database is running with Postgres SQL, and on the organization and the relationship between all the layers. So you have the knowledge package that contains all these resources, but each resource has its own record, and they are linked through digital object identifiers. So that allows a knowledge package to point out to a persistent identifier, such as a DOI, or an external URL if the resource is stored outside the Knowledge Hub, including, for instance, platform or their data repositories or institutional repositories. This gives flexibility to organize and to list the resources that form a knowledge package, and in the end to allow easy retrieval of resources and not duplicate efforts if the resource is already stored elsewhere.
Okay, thank you. Paula is our multi-part question answerer. So Paula, these are coming to you. Laurent Durieux from IRD again. What is a normal sequence timeline for publishing the data, the tools, this paper, essentially putting the knowledge on the Knowledge Hub? And how easy is it to go through the process of finding what we want to find in the Knowledge Hub? If you can answer that one first, please, or those two parts, please, Paula.
Yes, thank you, Laurent. Well, for sure, the best people to answer this question would have been the knowledge providers, who are the pioneers, the Daniele, Ian, and Gilberto, and the team have been the pioneers, knowledge providers who took part in populating the GEO Knowledge Hub as it stands now. And the normal sequence and timeline and how easy it is. So basically, besides the fact that you as a knowledge provider will know what is the knowledge you want to share, you will be contacting the GEO Knowledge Hub team, and together we will make sure that all the resources related to a given application are interconnected, and we will basically extrapolate all the essential resources that a given user who's not familiar with your application will need to have in order to be able to fully understand and replicate your solution. So it will start from a publication to the data, to the software, to the training material, and all the essential knowledge resources. Let me give you an example of a timeline. We started to work with the Human Planet Initiative with Daniele and his team. If I'm not mistaken, Daniele, that was November. And by beginning of January, latest, the resources were already inside. And the most time-consuming part, which is the most important and delicate part, is the curation and mediation process, because we want to make sure that whatever is in the GEO Knowledge Hub is fully documented and it is of at its best quality for the end user. And of course, you can understand that this part is somehow trying to fill that gap. I think it was Daniele or Ian said before, as we do research, our deadlines are always very tight. And the time we have at the end to secure that the knowledge is fully documented, is stored somewhere, is not enough. And so the GEO Knowledge Hub really aims at organizing this knowledge to be handed in the hand of another end user who will be able to use it. And so this curation process is the time that takes more, is the phase that takes more time. I think that's answer, hopefully, the first question.
I just want to see if Daniele or Ian have anything to add.
Sure, I can add something, Stephen. From a user's perspective, I think the culture around the Knowledge Hub is still evolving. Right now, the tools are being developed. They're not all there yet, so some of the processes aren't as easy as they will be. But so at this point in time, I see the Geo Secretariat doing a lot of the legwork and collecting the information from the knowledge providers and entering it in the system and so on. But as this matures, my vision anyways, hopefully I'm not too far off base, is that all the curation almost all the curation will be in the hands of the knowledge providers, and the tools will be robust enough that we'll be able to access them, create the knowledge resources and link them. And then that will free up a lot of resources for the GeoSec, because they're not going to have to do all those other steps as well. It'll be on the communities to do that. And they can focus on maintaining and constantly improving the infrastructure, meeting growing needs.
Thank you, Ian. Before I go back to Paula, Daniele, did you have anything to add on that?
I would recommend just to the data providers to prepare all the data sets as an open source with all the copyright documents ready, and that the process is relatively easy. With the team, with the Geo Knowledge team was very nice, because once they have incorporated, we just double check their entry, and was a relatively straightforward process. So it was first, that's what I wanted to mention. And I also wanted to mention that we just started the process. There's so much more that should be available through the Geo Knowledge Hub.
Thank you. That's good advice. That's really helpful, Daniele. Back to you, Paula, if you want to finish off what you were saying.
Yes, probably one element that is important to reiterate is the fact that for all those resources that do not have a DOI, a digital object identifier, the GEO Knowledge Hub is able to associate a new DOI to those resources. And this is a critical feature that, it provides an additional service to the knowledge providers as well, to the end users. And to finish up the second question about how easy it is to find the resources. So, of course, now as we just started to engage with the knowledge providers, the number of resources are not infinite. They will keep growing in the future. But of course, all those resources are associated to the originators, to the knowledge providers, to a given thematic, by their type of resources. And as well, something extremely important that we are planning to incorporate in the GEO Knowledge Hub is the functionality that the resources will be organized as well by the engagement priorities, and therefore by SDGs and Sendai and the Paris Agreement. So by having these different classifications, the user will find an easy way to get the knowledge he wants to find.
Okay. Paula, it's very strange that you're only about 50 meters away from me because your network is very crackly. I don't know if you can plug in a network cable or something. So thank you for those. In the last answer from Paula, she mentioned a little bit about curation, but I just want to go to a question from Betsy Hernandez, from our colleague from AmeriGeo and working in the Americas. She said, to ensure materials and data are shared and consistent, will there be a curation process for review? Paula, can I come back to you and maybe just get you to talk through the curation process, just maybe a bit more end to end?
Okay, sure. The curation process, let's take an example of the Send2Agri. The Send2Agri solution, whose final aim is to provide crop monitoring. It had publication, the remote sensing data set, the in-situ data set, the software, the training material, and the output products that was, as an example, for, if I'm not mistaken, EM over South Africa. So what we have started the engagement process with the knowledge provider and the curation was making sure that all these elements that are a part, that comprise the Send2Agri Earth observation solution, are fully documented and that are included into what we call the GEO Knowledge package. Because an outsider and a user will need to go through exactly the same research process that the Send2Agri team has done without the time of doing this, but benefiting only of the knowledge that the Send2Agri team has provided. And so it'll be able to read the publication, it'll be able to access the remote sensing data that are essential for him or her to reproduce the solution, and to access the in-situ data or the metadata about the in-situ data that will provide an insight of what type of characteristics you will have to collect on the ground to sustain the software analysis. And then the training material. So this is one part of the curation process. But I would also announce the fact that through the GEO Knowledge Hub, the end user will be able to be connected very quickly to the knowledge providers, asking for their help in case he would need. So he will be, he or she will be connected very quickly to the originator of the knowledge, as well as with other users who have been replicating that specific knowledge package. And therefore, the difficulties that a given user will find on replicating this solution will be shared among the community, and therefore the challenges will be minimized. And so this process of curation and making sure that all the elements are well described is time consuming, but is, Gilberto Queiroz mentioned it before, it is an exciting process because the knowledge provider and also the GEO Knowledge Hub team, we are able together to go really in depth into the knowledge produced by the knowledge provider and reveal all the hidden parts at the benefit of the end user. I hope it's clear enough.
I think so, and I think as we start to share documentation, people will be able to follow the steps and understand more about what you're saying as well. So thank you, Paula. So I'm going to move on now to our friend Nancy Serby from NASA. And Nancy is very involved in capacity development for CEOS, the Committee on Earth Observation Satellites, as well as GEO. And so Nancy has asked, for new users, what capacity development resources do you provide? And can I give this one to you, Doug, please?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. So this is a very good question. I think the simplest way to answer it is that there's kind of a two-prong approach, at least right now. The first prong is, as was shown in the introductory presentation, we're asking the knowledge providers as part of their package to provide a video that gives very basic, instruction on how to use the application. So that is hopefully something that will be embedded with every single knowledge package, so that it can be self-contained, and there would be other training materials, perhaps documentation, that would also be included there. However, we're also thinking in terms of from the Secretariat side of getting in touch with our partners who are in the capacity development line of things, such as ITC, RCMRD, and then our working groups, both in CEOS and in GEO, to find out how we can leverage their networks and maybe work with them to develop training materials, webinars, those kinds of things as we go along. We have now the foundations and the structure of the Knowledge Hub in place, and I think as we go forward, we're going to get a better feel for how we would like to work with our partners in GEO to work on capacity development, because as you've seen, there is a fair degree of technicality to this, and we understand that in a lot of cases it may not be straightforward, even with the materials that are provided. So. And a third thing I'll mention too is that also this idea of the communities that are going to be developed or given a space to occupy within the Knowledge Hub. That would be a third place to go for specific questions related to a knowledge package. So between the knowledge package itself containing either information on its own, and the Knowledge Hub containing information within the community, and then working separately with our development partners within GEO, that's kind of the approach that we're taking, at least at this point, with capacity development.
Okay, thank you, Doug. That's very comprehensive. And before you disappear, Doug, there's a final question here from our friend, Mr. Mikko Stralendorf from Finland. If you could just answer his question about what's the link to the GEO Knowledge Hub, or I presume you mean where is it or when's it coming?
Okay, so Mikko would like to kick the tires. We are, since the Knowledge Hub is in a development phase, we're going to keep it under wraps for probably the next month or so. Of course, there is an informational page about the Knowledge Hub that's accessible now, but the actual Knowledge Hub itself, we're going to develop for another month or so, at which point we would like to open up access to the GEOS Infrastructure Development Task Team for them to take a look, as well as the program board. So once we get some feedback from those bodies, say in the up through May, then at that point, I think we're looking at a more general release of the Knowledge Hub.
Fantastic. So just so people know, there was a question about the essential societal variables and how they go, with the ECVs, the EBVs, and all the other essential variables. So Thomas Kemper's answered that and provided a link if you look in the answer section. And again, Joanne was asking about phenology in the Brazil data cube, and Karina has answered that. So I think we are done now with all the questions and answers. So fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone. I now just hand quickly to Gilberto Camara, if you want to say some closing words. And once Gilberto is finished, I'll just let you know that we're going to have another webinar in the series. So Gilberto, if you have a couple of words before we wrap up, please.
Well, thanks you, Stephen, for a great job in moderating. And thanks for the presenters, Daniel, Gilberto Queiroz, Ian, for doing a very nice job presenting. Doug did a very nice job of setting the scene, and everybody who helped answer the questions. But most it is to the attendees that my thanks are due. Thank you for coming to join us in GEO. And please remember that if you have further questions, the team of the Knowledge Hub is available. If you like to start testing how to publish your knowledge package in the GEO Knowledge Hub and as a test, and to help us and hopefully to help you as well, don't hesitate to contact us, because we would like to really benefit from your experience everybody has a different problem to solve and solves in a different way. The more we use Knowledge Hub to disseminate this, how we solve problems in Earth observation, the better for everyone. This has been a fantastic day, and thanks for the attendees for making this possible by your participation and your questions. Back to you, Stephen.
Thank you, Gilberto. So I just want to finish by saying at the beginning, we said this was the inaugural webinar for the webinar series. So we're trying to do them as regularly as possible. So we will be announcing the date for the next one very shortly. And the next one, as you can see here, is going to be a knowledge package deep dive. So we'll be going into more detail and sharing more information about the knowledge packages themselves. So on behalf of the GEO Secretariat and the Knowledge Hub team and all of the knowledge providers, I'd just like to say thank you very much for attending. And you can contact us at secretariat@geosec.org if you need to email or get through to us. Or you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, you know, we're even on Clubhouse now, and probably nobody knows what that is. But anyway, thanks again for joining, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.